Yeah. Hold on. Let's go to YouTube Studio. Dude, that goal was so dumb. So fluke. Just turn around and fired it on that. No one knew it was happening. So dumb. All right. Well, it's on YouTube. Now let's tweet it out.
Game 5.
Yeah. This if we lose this game, we're not winning the series.
It's in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1-1. Damn. It's pressure. It's what you want as a fan, though. Close games, that means something.
I'd love it to be 7-0 right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you want games that mean something. So probably, yeah, you're right. You probably want it to be 7-0. But
I hate Tampa so much. They're so annoying because they're not that talented of a team besides their goaltender. Granted, we're kind of like that too, but like to play against is so annoying.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to start this up. And then we will get going. Let's see how many people do we have in here right now. Nine or now. All right. All righty, everyone. Welcome. This is a live podcast emergency episode that you guys requested and we delivered. Jordan cannot be with us tonight. He has something going on. I don't even know what it was. I don't think he told us, but we'll give him a pass because he's getting ready to fly up to Boston, which was it was windy today. It was very windy today. So a lot has happened today. It has been a crazy day in the golf world. If you think about it, it's surreal because of what's happening, but this is unlike anything we've ever seen in professional sports before. No leagues in other sports have ever threatened the main. Obviously there's been some new leagues recently, like the United States Football League and the XFL, but none of those ever threatened the NFL. This is something that for the first time in sports, we're seeing a group with basically unlimited money, holding a monopoly over these players because of how much they can give them that the PGA Tour cannot. And the fact that we don't know how it's going to play out because we've never seen anything like it, but it's just, I know me and Dan have had very separate takes on this, but I'm sure you'll definitely see some crossover today because of there's so many different things to talk about that there's going to be plenty we agree on, plenty we disagree on. Got tons of questions from you guys. So I'll let Dan give his initial thoughts and then we can jump right into those as we kind of just flow through. This isn't really something that we planned about, but it's got talked about because of what's going on.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy day. In the sense of it's here, it's real, right? I think that's the weirdest part is that it happened, like it happened, and it's gonna happen again tomorrow, and it's gonna happen again Saturday. And that's it, I guess. But because of 54 hole events. And in the meantime, the PGA Tour, issued their punishment. The LIV responded, and I mean, it's been like Twitter has been unreal recently.
It's been ridiculous.
And I mean, there's just a lot of different things to think about and talk about, and like I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to just start with the product that they put out there today?
Yeah, let's do that. You give your thoughts. What you watched it today, right?
I caught parts of it.
So first of all, I'll just start off with this. Thank you to all my followers, first of all, for putting up with what's been a really tough month for me, given how much work I've had. But school's over. So I had my last final yesterday. So today I just kind of chillaxed, I let it everything go. And I basically watched this thing from start to finish, just because I knew that I wasn't going to be watching it regularly, I guess, because of Spieth's not playing. But I'll let you give your thoughts first while I get this.
Yeah. Well, okay. So a couple things that I liked. The product in terms of how it was portrayed on YouTube was pretty cool, I thought. There was a lot of golf shots, which we've been complaining about, and which I understand why the PGA Tour and CBS and Golf Channel and ESPN Plus, they have to get in these like promotional packages and these commercials. I think they can do a better job in that department in general, but it was really nice to see what it would look like without commercials and without all this promotional stuff. So I thought that was cool. They did different things to try and spice it up. The leaderboard was interesting. I'm not sure if I liked it a ton. I liked the attempt, I guess. And I appreciated the nuance in kind of how they showcase the scoring, more NASCAR style. The team logos are really weird, but it adds a little bit of color and flair to the production. Having Arlo White, I don't know if anybody's Premier League fans, but he's done a bunch of the American coverage of the Premier League. And I think he does a really good, he's just confident and he knows what he's doing. And that was a drastic difference than compared to some of the play-by-play people on ESPN Plus. And, the money's going to buy talent. At least at that position. And it was the shotgun start was cool because you could see everybody at the same time. There weren't windows of them trying to just take up time where Rory tees off at say 9:30 and then Rahm's at 11. So they have to like figure out who to show in between then. And then, we'll just slip in a bunch of these ads and promotional packages because we can. So I enjoyed the bits of coverage that I saw. It was a nice I liked how they tried to make it different from normal PGA Tour coverage, even though the event itself is basically the same as every other golf tournament.
Yeah,
we're going to watch.
My first initial reaction was that it was really cool. I thought that, again, Arlo White kind of grew on me as the time went on. I guess just different. I'm sure it was a lot more normal because I don't watch soccer and my broadcasters are usually do not have British accents unless it's the British Open. But he grew on me. He got better as it went on. But overall, I thought the product was not taking into the fact any of the other factors like how much money they have, but the overall product in terms of the broadcast was on par with PGA Tour Live at least, which is I not talking about the golfers, but the overall broadcast.
I'd argue it was better.
I'd argue that too.
Like I thought it was more, and maybe just because it was new and different, but I thought, and they do have a lot of room they have a greater margin for error, right? Because as you've mentioned, they've got the money to support not having advertisements at this point. But I thought they did a good job of first time doing it, and they put together something that was like, I don't really know how you could complain about the production necessarily, not the golf product, but the TV YouTube product. I thought, certain things you can nitpick, but it, like you mentioned, it was comparable to PGA Tour Live, and in some ways better, I thought.
Yeah. Again, as you said, this is happening. Like, that's kind of one of the things, like it's weird that this is actually like happening now. Because it's all, but this has been not just the Saudi League, but like overall, like an alternate tour has kind of been talked about for a few years now.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird that it's happened. And just the fact that, again, some of the times was cringy. Some of the times it felt like we were watching a video game, or it was, I saw someone tweet,
Nickelodeon.
like, it's on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
But keeping in mind all of that, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, all these big names are playing it. And it's just surreal to kind of have that be happening.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, I think there's a lot more interesting things to get into today than just necessarily the golf. Just everything else that's happened afterwards, and everything else, like who else is going. Because I know Bryson now has basically gone from a rumor to for
Confirmed.
sure.
Yeah.
And Varner has also gone from basically a rumor to confirmed from
Really?
told. Yes.
Wow. It's kind of interesting considering he's playing Canadian Open this week.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
when's the next one? It's the week after the US Open?
Yeah.
Or is it 2 weeks after?
It is 2, I think.
I think it might be 2. Yeah. So it's the week of the John Deere.
Yeah. But like, let's start off with the statement that the PGA Tour made.
Yeah, one more thing before we get to that. Because I thought, as good as the kind of TV production, at least new and different, and they tried things and it was interesting in that regard. I think that will wear off a little bit, because at the end of the day, it was quite literally the same golf product. And they had a couple names, right? Phil, DJ. But like, you're still watching the same golf, and with the players that aren't, it's a field, it's a DP World Tour field, or like a low end, not very good Hero World Challenge, right? Yeah. So it's like the golf itself isn't going to be great. So I wonder how the just kind of the effects and the TV, I'd imagine that'll wear off a little bit as you realize that you're just watching a low end golf event, right? Which I think is why it's so critical that they got Bryson. It's not as bad of a loss for the PGA Tour, I think, as much of it is a massive gain for LIV Golf.
I think that to say that, let's just talk about this. I mean, not even, this kind of alludes into the statement, but like, I think today was a win for the LIV Tour. As the day,
I agree with you in terms of their battle with the PGA Tour. Yeah. There were still some things where they. Anyway, go ahead though.
So just talking about the statement by Monahan, I thought he really struck out. I think that overall he needed to do a lot more than leave it so everything up in the air. Like nothing really happened. Like they said they were going to suspend players, but like we knew that was happening. They didn't say how long. And I know they talked about like it's going to be different for certain players, but I've been talking to different people and they basically are agreeing with me that what I got out of this statement is that the PGA Tour is always going to do what the best that they can do in that moment. And by doing that, they're going to play it safe now. Meaning if Phil Mickelson comes crying back to them, I don't think they're going to turn him away because they know that if they take Phil Mickelson back, not only are the Saudis going to hurt, but they're going to gain money because Phil is a big brand.
If these guys, if they come back, the LIV is dead.
Correct.
Because
which is exactly why I don't think which is why they're not being so hard on the suspensions, because they know that they're not going to hold up a suspension against Phil Mickelson if Phil Mickelson wants to come back.
Right. Well,
because
yeah.
Know that would kill the LIV.
If he comes back for good, not if he's like going to switch between the two tours, I don't think they'll take that. I think it's like, correct, if you come back and you're going to come back for good, we'll probably have to give you some sort of suspension.
But it also sets the precedent that other players like Koepka, Bryson, players like that can go to this new tour, try it out, and come and basically know that their punishment or consequence isn't going to be that bad when they get back, which is where I really thought he swung and missed. If Jay Monahan wanted to set a precedent today, he would have made it a lot more clear what was going to happen. And I think he would have, I think he needed to draw the line in the sand, and he failed to do that.
Okay.
And I was reading something, a thread that one of the people I know was a part of, and I agreed with almost everything he said. But he was basically saying, let me actually pull it up. I just want to make sense. So Seb Max, he was doing a discussion with someone else, and he said, he doesn't trust Monahan to be creative enough to get them out of this situation, which I agree with, because I don't think Monahan is capable of fulfilling the needs to get people back. I think they are very capable of fulfilling the needs to make. I think they're capable of doing it with the help of the Premier League that is looking to
PGL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're so against this Saudi alternate tour, they can come up with something in the fall where no one watched those events anyways,
right,
to incorporate that sort of golf, which is why they're all saying they're leaving, even though obviously some of it's for the money, obviously. I don't think Jay Monahan's the guy that's going to get that done. I think Jay Monahan overall is a very good commissioner, but I don't think that he's going to be one that's going to be creative enough to succeed in that.
Okay. I don't disagree with that. I think the statement was very, like, it was kind of what I expected. I didn't think
it was exactly
punishment, because I think they know that, as we kind of talked about, if these guys come back after just grabbing the bag, like, in the end, it'll probably just blow over after a 3-month suspension from September to December, where nobody plays anyway. Right. And it'll be some sort of like, you got the bag. And if they come back and they don't go back to the LIV, like, the PGA Tour wins. Right. Like, I think, I don't think the LIV has I'm not sure exactly. I don't think it has the sustainability to last for 15 or 20 years, if that makes any sense.
See, that's where I disagree, because going back to the fact that the LIV Tour literally has almost unlimited money, to the point where they can, if they have to, last case scenario, just fund their way to sustainability.
Right, but
They can,
how I mean,
because
I don't
they're,
know. I don't know what
as
their
Rick,
money
as
situation
Ricky
is, right?
Fowler
But
said, everyone has a price. There are always going to be people that can't turn down a certain amount of money.
right. No, I agree. But I think the tour has the tour won't not quit, but like the tour I think has too much of a safe foundation to fall back
Yeah.
on, that
Yeah.
they won't go away. And eventually I think that just will outlast the LIV. And I think part of it is that the LIV is pretty good at shooting themselves in the foot, and they have a bad media reputation. Like if you look at all of the golf media outlet people, there's very few of them that are pro LIV.
Correct.
And I think that doesn't do them a good job. They kicked out 2 reporters already. Alan Shipnuck had
Which
that.
we'll get into for sure.
Alan Shipnuck had that whole thing about how Greg Norman was like, oh, I'll see what happened where my people kicked you out, and he was standing right there. Like that's just they have, on top of some of the moral stuff, they've had some bad looks, right? Where it's
I
like,
100% agree.
and I think that,
Which is why, even for someone like me, who I've considered myself more pro LIV than a lot of other people have, just because I'm really open to the idea of this alternate tour. There's just some stuff going on that, like, it's sketch. It's a bad look. Like kicking out Shipnuck and then having Norman be outed as lying right to his face. Like that's a bad look.
right. No, I agree.
But
Um,
um,
and I think with the PGA Tour statement as well, they have to play it. I think there was a lot of legal people involved that said, hey, you have to play this safe. Like you can't, if you draw the line, I don't think the tour, one, I
they
don't think
can't. That's what I'm saying. Like
they're not built for it. They're not built for like
they're
cutting
not.
people off. But they do, I think that might also be, they might have some inside, not inside, but just like maybe there's some sort of confidence that let's play the long game. The LIV might mess up themselves, but also there's the ultimate
I
bail
agree.
card, which is the majors, right? And I know we have some takes on that as well, but that's the ultimate card, I think, is if the
Yeah.
majors are like, these
Well,
guys aren't playing, and who
well,
knows
in
what
the
they'll
end,
say. But I think the PGA Tour might be like, all right, majors, please have our back, because that's the ultimate bailout card
in
right
the
there.
end, yes, I think that the majors are the ultimate bailout, and that's why we can talk about that right now, because I know we both have some pretty differing takes on this.
I don't think we have different takes. I actually don't, but we'll
Okay.
we'll go ahead.
Um, so obviously we know that the RNA and USGA are not going to be doing anything this year, which, whether you think they're going to next year or not, makes sense, just because it's too short notice. You can't, like, who knows what's happening. But next year will be a big thing. There have been reports saying 100% the Masters are going to ban people, and then there are reports saying 100% they're not. Like, no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But in the end, I just don't see any of the majors besides the PGA Championship, who I don't think just the PGA Championship would be enough. If you get to play 3 majors and still get to secure that bag, I don't think that's enough.
I agree.
I don't see the US Open and RNA ever budging on the fact that they are, for over 125 years, they have prided themselves on being an open championship where if you qualify, if you meet the criteria, then you're in. And we're not going to change that criteria no matter what.
No,
and I just don't see them making a part of the criteria you can't play in the LIV league. I just don't see that happening. I don't think that it's part of who they are. And I just don't think they're willing to, again, take that risk, because that sets a precedent that, oh, all of a sudden we're now the PGA Tour's pony, which is another reason why I think the Masters isn't going to either, because the Masters thinks that they own the sport. And so do the PGA Tour. They think they own the PGA Tour. I mean, the PGA Tour thinks they own golf, and the Masters also think they own golf.
Well, the Masters kind of
They're the
does.
end all be all.
I think the Masters is the end all be all.
Which it
And
probably is.
and that'll be tested because they are an invite tournament.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see what they do. But the Masters will set the precedent, I think.
So I said this morning that I don't think the Masters would be able to win a court case against the LIV Tour. I was completely wrong on that. I was thinking more of the US Open. The Masters does have the ability to ban them, and no one can say anything. It's an invitational tournament. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
The problem is they would have to answer so many questions.
Yeah, they would.
Because I know that Jordan has brought this up before. So many of their members are profitable from Saudi Arabia. And what precedent does that send or say if they are not only not banning the members as well, but like it would be too hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably differing levels to that, right? Like some of them profit because of this reason, and where like Graham McDowell probably doesn't play in the match anyway, but like Sergio Garcia is benefiting from sport washing and trying to use this platform as a Saudi Arabia is good now, even though it's just covering up a bunch of the kind of really bad stuff that goes on there. But I mean, the Masters is in an interesting spot, and with their invites only, they have the power to kind of shut, like if they say, if you play in the LIV, you're not going to come, which I think would be interesting. I'm not going to say whether it's, I think in theory, it's the right thing to do, but it's also, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on behind it. So there's probably a lot of wrong things that they've already done. So I would understand the like, okay, this is hypocritical because, you know, you have done wrong and you didn't do anything about it. And then it's somewhat similar and you're going to do this other thing. You're going to change your kind of narrative on where you stand about it. But all I'm going to say is that they have the power. Like I think the PGA Championship probably follows suit with what the Masters does. And I think with your point about the Opens, like I understand why because it is like an open tournament, right? In theory. But this is different. Like there has been no LIV tour before. And who knows if that changes their minds on things. So we'll see. I
just think it would set a very dangerous precedent, because then all of a sudden, is the US Open going to ban everyone that plays in the Saudi Invitational, if that's even happening? But they haven't in the past.
I think that's different though.
Well, right? On what basis are they banning them? Because the tour is asking them to, or are they banning them because it's immoral to play in a Saudi Arabia funded tournament league sort of thing? So it's a very interesting situation because there's so many moving parts. And
there's also just so much that I think everybody doesn't know, you know, like I don't think anybody actually knows, like has a correct, proper answer in terms of that would be not hypocritical, would do the right and like all the right moral things, right? I think that just there's too much going on to make that call so soon. I mean, we'll see. And maybe the players, because the media is so anti-LIV, maybe the players just can't take it, right? I mean, some of their comments and press conferences have just been ripped apart by Twitter and golf media. And that can take a toll on people, I think. And who knows how long they're willing to kind of put up with dealing with all of the outside negative noise surrounding their name. Right, which is why I think Brooks, did the Rangers let up a goal?
No, but we should have scored.
Oh,
Uh, this is
I love it.
ridiculous.
Like I feel like Brooks would be pretty good in the LIV
Brooks would be big, yeah.
because he would just I don't care what people think of me. But actually I don't think he's going. Like I know there's been a lot of rumors about it. I don't think
Yeah,
Brooks
it's up. But
wants to
let's
go.
for a second put out a hypothetical that Brooks, Bryson, Fowler, Varner, all those people that have rumored to go are going. Brooks, Bryson, Fowler, Mickelson, DJ. That's, as much as it's not the biggest group in the world, that is a solid chunk of the PGA Tour's brand. That is a solid chunk of who people go to watch.
Well, and Bubba, right?
And Bubba.
Because Bubba, they would have two. I think it was Phil, Bryson, DJ, Bubba were in the top 10 of the PIP, which is like their popularity thing, right? So it's 4 of your top 10 that are now in the LIV.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big deal.
That's significant. Like I was debating someone I was at the golf course with today, and he was like, well, Ricky sucks. Yeah, but people pay for PGA Tour Live to watch Ricky Fowler. That's like it's not necessarily that they're good. Phil Mickelson is old. He doesn't make the cut very often. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a top 2 or 3 crowd at every golf tournament.
Yeah.
Like it's still a big hit to the brand. It's losing the money. And I'm not saying that's the biggest point, but at some point, if you keep getting these players to go, the PGA Tour is either going to have to take a stand or they're going to have to give in.
No, I don't think they're ever going to give in.
I wouldn't be so sure though.
Well, given in what way? I think they might give in terms of
I think
hey, PGL, what are you doing? We need help. I don't think they give in to LIV at all.
I think at some point there could be a time down the road that if the PGA Tour doesn't handle this correctly, we could see players playing both tours. This is a few years down the road, and this would be last case resort, but it definitely is out there if the PGA Tour doesn't handle this the right way.
I think that's, I'd say that's pretty unlikely, but it's not impossible. But that's like the Jay Monahan messed it up pretty big time, I think, at that point. And Saudi Arabia, the LIV needs a lot of things to go right for them. And they're on a very tight line at the moment, tightrope. Like they are if some news comes out of Saudi Arabia about some other human rights atrocity, it's just gonna get
this is true
very bad, right?
There's something I like to think back to is this is a dangerous comparison I'm going to make, but if you look at the Nazi Germany Olympics in whatever year that was, when for an entire 3 weeks they basically hid everything that they were doing and made Germany look like the best place in the world. You think about how many things had to go right for them because, again, as you're saying, one thing goes wrong in Saudi Arabia where someone else gets killed or some big thing happens, like that's going to kill the LIV Tour.
Yeah.
It could end them, like, simply.
Oh yeah, no, they could die very quickly.
Very quickly.
Die.
So again, I am not saying that I don't disagree with a lot of the moral aspect of this. I'm still very against blaming the people, the players. It's a lot easier to blame DJ than it is to blame Graham McDowell, Martin Keimer, Harold Varner, because their situation is a lot different. But I still think that it is a little bit unfair. Because they've been asked some really hard questions this week, to say the least.
Yeah, they've also given some pretty awful answers, though.
They have. There have been
I would say that.
very awful answers. But I thought Graham McDowell gave a pretty decent answer when answering. Some reporter was basically just trying to start something, which honestly, like, I get it. But he basically said, like, we're politicians, we're golfers, we're not politicians. And if we had to solve the human rights issues everywhere we played, we wouldn't play much golf. And I see where he's coming from the point that what more is he going to do in this situation? Is not taking the money going to make that big of a positive impact?
Well, no, I think it's not going to make it doesn't add to the negative impact, because what they're doing is they are being used. They're being paid a lot of money to be used as pieces to make Saudi Arabia as a country look more complete, more whole, more developed, just kind of overriding this underlying narrative of how bad the human rights things are in Saudi Arabia. It's an attempt to make them more normal. So by participating in that, you're participating in concealing this, just the stuff that goes on in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So by not taking it, he's not making things more positive. He's making them less negative. So, and by taking it, he's helping them cover over the cracks.
Fair enough.
And I think two things. It can be true that I can understand why they go, because that's a lot of money. And I wish they would just say that, because I can't argue with that. I'm not changing your views on the human
I agree. I do wish
morality
one
problems.
player. I do wish just one player would come out and say, "Listen, like,
it's the money.
My name is James Pyatt, and I was given an opportunity to
make a lot of money,
guaranteed food in the mouths of my family for the rest of my life, and I took that.
Yeah, that's a much better answer than,
like, I would respect that. The only problem is that's a lot harder for someone like Phil Mickelson to answer than it is for James Pyatt.
No, that's fair, but I think even Phil's just like, man, that's a lot of money, and I just wanted it. All right, Phil, then
I would respect it.
It's like, all right, like you took the money. It can be, I can understand why you did it, and also know that I like disagree with your action, right? Like those things can be true. And Phil doesn't need my approval to go to the Saudi tour. DJ doesn't need my approval to go to the Saudi tour. He did what he thinks is best for him.
And again, I really like what JT said. I know we're not JT fans, but like,
no, that was like, JT said it really well.
Like, I disagree with everything DJ's doing, but it doesn't make me like DJ any less. I don't think DJ is. I didn't really ever have an opinion on whether DJ was like the best guy in the world, but like, I don't like him any less because of what he did. But again, it's just like, it's, in terms of the players, it's a big crapshoot. But today was honestly like, it was like a dumpster fire almost. Like it was nonstop, like just like, what is happening? Like, why? Like, this is ridiculous.
It was a lot.
Like, this is professional golf right now.
Right. Yeah, it's in a crazy place. And I think at the end, I've said this a couple times. It's the majors are the ultimate, and I think we'll see, because there's this ultimate case of like how much money
the majors will be
can buy you out of legacy. You know what I'm saying? How much money would you take to not, if they ban, how much money would you take to not play in the majors? Right.
Which is my next point.
A very interesting question. But before we get to that, your next point, Preston asked about what the European Tour is going to do. And man, the European Tour is in a tough spot. I think they reached the PGA Tour, and the European Tour probably will be in contact and being like, hey, like, what are we doing here? Because I think if they can find some sort of partnership that's broader than just the Scottish Open, that will be very beneficial for both of them, especially the European Tour, because they
the European Tour would have a lot. The European Tour plays in a lot of places that has some questionable stuff going on. Not as bad as Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but also not necessarily just more like the talent pool.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the bigger question, because they don't have the same funds. The PGA Tour, they don't have any money really compared to the Saudis, but they certainly have a lot more than the European Tour, right? The European Tour doesn't have the money to even try and compete with the LIV Tour. So,
and neither does the PGA Tour in terms of money.
No, but they have enough to sustain themselves for now.
Yeah. They also have the status or
the legacy. Yeah.
But going to my main point is like what the worst case scenario in all of this is. And Dan Rappaport sort of touched on this, but if it gets to a point where the majors do ban the players and the players are still going to the LIV Tour, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
If they somehow have enough money to get people to go there and play exhibitions instead of playing in majors, then the sport becomes
it slowly dies.
It dies because of the fact that there is no one's playing for anything. It's all money. And what they make doesn't matter to us. I don't care how much Jordan Spieth makes. I just want to see him win the major.
Right. And that's the other thing about that is like, if people are being paid and refusing majors to do that,
says a lot.
They're choosing, that says a lot about our country. That says a lot about the people in this world at this moment choosing like immoral funding over legacy. And I guess that's maybe like growing up, and in the past, legacy has been this ultimate thing. But now maybe humanity's choosing money. Like, we get to a point in the world where money trumps everything. And I think it probably does now. But if that's the case, like, money, that would be the ultimate. Money trumps everything.
It would.
And that's a very sad place to think about our world in.
And it's surreal to think about that is a relatively possible situation for what could be the end of golf as we know it.
Relatively possible might be a little strong. I think there's
it's possible if everything happens.
Right. But I think that would take, I think it would take a little bit.
But that brings me back to the point. How much money do they actually have? How much are they willing to give out?
No idea. It's got to be billions of dollars that they have.
Oh, billions doesn't even begin to.
Like tens of billions, hundreds of billions. I mean, yeah, they will not go down. It's funny because they could go down very quickly, but they could also make this thing last a long time because they've got a lot of cash. I think that's part of what makes it interesting to talk about and kind of think about and digest and be on Twitter for, because it's like, it's a very, it's going to go down in, the history books, however it ends up, right?
This day is going to be one that is remembered for a long time.
And like Martin Keimer made the first birdie of the LIV Tour.
Yep.
Who knows? There could be 90 million birdies on that tour, or they could be 600.
Yep.
Like, we don't know. And it's just going to be a day by day thing. So,
yeah. Do you want to get into some of the questions that people gave?
Yeah, sure.
So the first one was, do you think that Spieth changing his bio means he's going to the LIV Tour? that bio change was like years ago, I think. It said pro golfer for the recent future, I believe. I know it
Yeah.
said PGA Tour like when he first started, but it said pro golfer for a very long time, I think. I don't think that has anything to do. From everyone I've talked to recently, Jordan has no intention of going.
Yeah. And you would, I mean, I
And
don't,
which makes sense. It's not something that would intrigue him as much as it would other players. He's young. He's got plenty of time to go.
and he makes
He makes so much.
nearly he makes 8 to 9 figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes 8 to 9, high 8 figures, low 9 figures a year anyway, right? So it's like, and I mean, if everybody else is going, then he's got a better shot at the PGA. Like he wants the slam. He's not leaving now. I don't think ever. Rangers give up a goal or didn't score. They got scored on.
Yeah.
2-1. Oof.
With a minute left.
Ouch.
Could see it coming from a mile away. We were getting dominated all game. Jesus, man. He just missed an empty netter too.
That sucks. Man, you unlucky to get your pain captured on live.
I'm trying my best to not like yell.
Oof. Yeah, I would be. I don't know if I'd have my
It's
face
such
on
a
the
good
camera.
goal. Like we missed so many opportunities in the third.
Oh boy.
Well, on to the draft. Anyways, there's I don't even have any words. You want
I don't know. All I'm thinking is like if Spieth wins the US Open and the Celtics lose game 7 as we do the live recording, that would be pretty late, I guess. But that would be brutal. I can't even imagine. Who knows? It could make the comeback story even greater, but you probably don't want to hear that right now. So, yeah, well, I don't know. Do you have more questions to tee me
yeah,
up?
there's plenty more.
That's tough. That's so brutal.
Yeah, it's whatever. It was
Oh, it's whatever right now. It sucks.
Jesus, 3 in a row for them too. Jeez, that's brutal.
Wait, they scored an open goal or something.
Yeah, 3-1.
Empty netter. Jeez. Yeah, that's
Well, wow. I mean, it's not as painful because I fully expected it after the performances we had in game 3 and 4 and all game. So I've sort of already like prepared myself that this wasn't going to go our way, but it's still like,
yeah.
I wish we could have got it. I wish we could have got to 7 a little more. Like it was like, because now we're going to lose in 6 and it makes it look like a blowout. And
Yeah.
all right, well, there's some more questions that we'll get to. It's all right. Good to see it. It was honestly like, it's whatever. Like, as much as this kills me inside, this is a very fun run. I mean, it's not over yet, I guess, but like this team was pretty fun to watch all year. So it's all right. We're young. We'll be back. It's not the end of the world. Let's see. Is there a world in which Spieth would join the LIV? Yeah,
Yes.
there is.
Yeah, there is.
There is.
Sadly.
So
But I think it's I think probably many things going a very specific way. Like it's a very long shot, at
Yeah.
least of right now. But things can change so quickly. Like who knows? You just can't count it out. But I'd say that seems pretty unlikely. I mean, he loves tearing up Mr. Ranch, right? So it's like, why not? Just want to play the Byron Nelson and stuff.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. If Norman had closed out more majors, would we be doing this right now?
Like, would he have signed on?
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like they would have just found someone else.
yeah, I think honestly, I don't even know if Norman's like he might. He's a weird guy to have because I think he doesn't care enough to where he will go get a Phil and go get a DJ and will try and go lure. Like he's not getting Rory, he's not getting JT. I doubt he's getting Spieth, but he Norman could be the type of dude to go get a big fish. But I also think Norman could be the type of dude to like fall off the boat, you know what I'm saying, and sink it. Right? Like he's so volatile. I think that he could make it really good, but also just sink the ship so quickly. And I think with that much money, and that much thirst for instant gratification and success, I think Norman is the right play. I think he still does it, even if he wins the majors, because he just gets a lot more money, right? Like it's the money, the majors doesn't change how much. Like if he had two more majors in his back pocket, I think he still takes however much he's making, right? Like it doesn't change that much.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it would be just it's such a hypothetical. Um that I don't think it would make a difference, but
It's tough. Yeah,
tough.
that's I'm not sure.
They would have found someone else.
Right. Yeah.
Clearly. They have the money for it. They would have found someone else. What do you think about the shotgun start format? How will it affect some leaders finishing on easy versus hard holes? I think we're yet to see it because we haven't seen the end of a tournament yet. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
It'll be a little weird, I think, to see a leader finish up on 7. Right. Like that seems a little goofy, but maybe they rearrange it so the leader going in will finish up on 18 in theory. But I just like having everybody in the same time window. Because I think that helps with TV, right? Like you have a 4.5 hour gap where everybody's playing their rounds and you can show everybody. But that's only really doable with 18 times. It's only really doable with 54 guys at most. Like the tour can't do it if they have 156 men field because you can't get everybody into a thing. You can't get everybody into a 4.5 hour block, right? But I kind of like it. I think it's interesting and different. I don't know if it'll just wear off because it's new and interesting. Like it'll just be whatever pretty soon, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Again, I don't really know how it's going to affect it until the final round. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know the course well enough, so I don't really know like what the hurdles are, what the easy holes are. But
yeah,
again, it is what it is. Like,
yeah.
I think it's
Preston,
cool having everyone in the same window.
Yeah, Preston in the chat on YouTube asked if enough players leave, do you think the tour? I'm assuming LIV tour eventually gets OWGR points. So I think something came out today where the LIV tour is applying to qualify for OWGR events. So I think it's up to the OWGR people to now clarify whether that counts because even though it is team based, which usually means no OWGR, it is still a 54-hole leaderboard of stroke play individual golf. If they don't get OWGR points, which I think they will, but if they don't, that would also be a very good thing for the PGA Tour. Because if you don't have OWGR points, you're just going to drop in the OWGR, and then you're not going to even qualify for the majors. So at that point, it becomes very, unless they go play in like the Asian Tour or something, which I thought about the other night. Like if the Asian Tour and the LIV agree to some partnership where they play enough events in the Asian Tour to get OWGR points and then can still play the LIV, that would be kind of crazy. But I don't think the players in the LIV are going to jump up the OWGR quickly, because obviously the PGA Tour will still have their events that still get their players. And I think the other thing is the Corn Ferry Tour, I think, has a lot of really talented dudes down there. And I think they could rise up the ranks pretty quickly as well. So I think the PGA Tour has got enough. They have the benefit of having a lot of people available for events. They just have to figure out how to get them into the events, you know? So I think that was kind of a long ramble about OWGR, but in the end, I think, yes, LIV will get OWGR. And if they don't, that would be a massive W for the PGA Tour.
Well, the official golf ranking is interesting because all of the official golf ranking, like sanctioned tours events, all are like they have cuts. So you can't really have there be no cuts on this tour.
Well, I mean, WGC still had OWGR.
But no, I'm saying like all the tours have like 80 to 90% of their.
Oh.
And plus, the new official golf ranking format is everyone who makes the cut gets points. So you can't just have everyone get points every week. That's a loophole. It would be tough.
That's a good point.
You have to incorporate some thing where if you don't do a certain thing on the first few rounds, then you're not eligible for points or something like that. But I mean, they should be able to do it, but
yeah. Well, I think they do something anyway where they take the top 2 of their team score for the team. So maybe if you don't qualify the first few days of your team score, then you don't get OWGR points. But then that's only half of the guys getting OWGR points in a 48-man field. So like if DJ shoots a +3 and he gets beat by the 15-year-old kid and Chase Koepka, even though he's still playing Saturday, he's going to get nada. And they don't play that much. So he's going to fall down the rankings pretty quickly, I still think. So that's a very good point that I hadn't quite thought about, and adds, again, another kind of complexity and nuance to the whole thing. So it's a good question. OWGR will be, besides the majors, I think that's the next big step in determining like how many people go to the LIV, how many stay with PGA Tour.
Yeah. I feel like the official golf ranking, hold on one second. I feel like the official golf ranking is actually quite a big thing.
Yeah.
In this discussion, because if players can't earn official golf ranking points, that like then they can't get in majors.
Yeah, no, it's massive.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. What else did people ask? Oh yeah, Preston just brought up a great point. The people straight out of college, that's a way to win the long game.
Yeah. Although the problem with that, like, no, I agree. I think the PGA Tour needs to up their like Corn Ferry Tour, like their pathway to get to the PGA Tour. Same with guys right out of college. The only problem with that is if the field is only 48 dudes and you can only take so many guys out of college, right? Without kicking other guys out to the Asian tour, right? So it's like there's some sort of balance there of when you add a guy like Bryson and Fowler and Varner, you have to lose these three other guys. And if they just, I guess, go to the Asian tour. But it's sort of a balance of like, well, how many people do we get in this, right? So yeah, I don't know. But I think you're right, Preston. I think the PGA needs to definitely up there. That's one of the things I want to see. Overall, I just want to see improvement in the PGA Tour product. And I think this is definitely going to push them to do that. And if they don't, then it's like, yeah, I think it just shows some more flaws in the PGA overall. And one of them is that path to the tour, whether it be through Corn Ferry, and whether it be through just playing college golf, right? So,
Yeah. Let's see. Thoughts on Phil Mickler's return? I was great to see him play.
played pretty good, didn't he? Like
Yeah,
ball striking, he just couldn't putt or something. I
yeah,
don't know. I didn't watch much. It was cool to see Phil back. He wore that Augusta jacket and then took it off after his first tee shot. Which I don't actually like. I'm not sure what point he's trying to prove there, but um, it it was good to see. It's fun, Phil's a decently fun guy to follow playing golf. Um, and he's been through a lot recently, more so, with some other stuff other than just golf and gambling and the book and all of the negative perception of him. So, yeah.
yeah. I think in the future, it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds with Phil, especially because he was the one who started this. Basically, he was their guy that they started with. And again, where would this be right now if they didn't have DJ? No one expected DJ to be here.
I think they'd be in the same
You do?
spot. Maybe DJ helps a little bit, but I think DJ hasn't won an event and a tour event since the Masters in November of 2020. And like he's not the most his press conferences are entertaining, but on the course, he's not the most like entertaining guy unless he's dialed in. And he just hasn't been dialed in for a while. So maybe he has a little Tom Brady where he flips a switch on his kind of persona and charisma. Because I think he's actually I think he's a cooler dude than he appears to be on the course. But he certainly doesn't move any needles. But I mean, he helps. I don't think you can say he hurts the LIV product. I just don't know how much he hurts the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's true for a lot of these guys, and that it helps the LIV Tour a lot more than it hurts the PGA Tour. Like if you're comparing their cost benefit for each one of the tours, I think overall the LIV is just making more gains than it's hurting the tour. I think that's true for every player, unless it's like a Rory. But even then, the gains would be, I don't know. There might be a point. We haven't reached the point yet where somebody will reverse that, but regardless.
Yeah. Any other questions on the? If you have any other questions, you want to talk about Shipnuck before we go?
Sure.
That's a bad look for them. It's killing for them, honestly.
Well, yeah, Shipnuck has been what a wild 12 months for him. The Phil book not even 12 months. I just don't know, 6 months. The Phil book, his whole coverage of the Saudi League, getting ousted from press conferences by what he called goons, and then sending it to Greg Norman, and then Greg Norman standing right behind him. It's such a weird. I mean, he's not even covering it unfairly. I don't think he's just reporting what's happening to him. And hopefully he continues to do that, but I think it can be hard sometimes. So far, I think he's done a really good job, and it's certainly not the easiest environment to stay 50-50 on, or not 50-50 on, but just like even keeled on.
Yeah.
So props to him. But I think that will be something to monitor, though, is like, all right, are his biases? Because it happens, right? And I'm not blaming him or judging him for having some sort of bias show, because everybody does, and it's difficult to control. But I wonder if that may appear at some point, or what it would take for that to appear. So
Yeah. He's a really interesting guy, to be honest. Really interesting guy. It's interesting, really, like, to see what, like, how he handles everything, because he kind of handles everything like he says, like, all these guys made a scene and he had nothing to do with it. I like the guy, honestly. I think he's interesting. I thought his Phil book was pretty interesting from everything that I did read from it. And I think he's entertaining, just the way that everything comes down around him. But I don't know. The situation today was crazy.
yeah.
To have that image of, I mean, that's gonna, if the Saudi League falls through, that's gonna be the image of him, just of Norman standing there. Like, you can already see it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good picture. It's cool too, just to think about, like, I talked about earlier how LIV Tour will go down as like part of history, right? Like, people will talk about this, regardless if it's successful or it fails and flames out. And Shipnuck will be part of that story. And I think that's got to be pretty cool. I don't know if because he's so in the moment, but if in a couple of years, if whatever happens to it, if he steps back and realizes, you know what, I was a well-known name in a crazy time in golf history. Like, that's pretty cool, So hopefully he gets that chance to kind of reflect on that a little bit and appreciate what his career has given him, I think. So
do you guys have any more questions in the live chat that we can answer before I cry myself to sleep?
man,
Rough day.
well, yeah, rough finish to the day. It's always brutal going to sleep on an L, but Riley said, can we acknowledge that Phil was striping it?
He was. His ball striking was insane today.
It was solid.
He shot 1 under, hitting, not putting it well. So
yeah. Greg saying, how long do you think it would last, the LIV Tour?
I think it lasts a little while for sure.
But like, if you had to put years on it, I actually don't even know if I want to do that, but I'm curious. I think it'll have a hard time going away, but I wonder how long will it be relevant? That's tough, because it could be irrelevant like in 5 days. If, well, maybe not irrelevant, but it could be over in 5 days if something happens. But it could also be the next, like it could be a while. I think we'll get a good kind of look at it depending on when the Masters comes around and what they decide to do. And that'll be like if they're like, yep, they can play, then I think the LIV will be around for a while. But if they can't, then I think it slowly starts to just its popularity will decrease. The people over there will decrease, right? It'll still have a product, I think, for a while because there's a lot, they seem pretty committed to it. And I think they could get a bunch of Asian tour guys who know that they're not suspended from the PGA Tour because they were never in the PGA Tour. So, and they're not suspended from the majors because they weren't getting to the majors anyway. So I think it's here for the long run, actually. Just how relevant is it, I think, is the question. And I think we'll know could be pretty soon. Could be 8 months, could be 10 months, could be 3 years. Who knows? Tough question to
for sure.
have an answer to, I guess. But
yeah,
Greg says he'd give it a year. I think that's a fair. We could see where it is in a year.
It will be interesting to see where it is in a year, to say the least.
I think it's still here in a year. I just don't know if it'll be relevant.
Yeah, I agree.
But
yeah, I agree.
Who knows? It's the beauty of it all, I guess.
That is the beauty of it all. But
I'm exhausted. It's been a crazy day.
I think that's it. I've lost the mood.
Yeah, I was gonna say after they lost,
it's gone downhill quick. Oh, dude, it blows. It's all right though. Honestly, I'm not even that like. It sucks in the moment, but like now I'm already moved on because the fact that like it's just such a young team. Like we weren't gonna beat the Avs. It's just like it's one of those feelings where like you're so thankful for because I don't have very good sports teams. I'm very thankful that I got like this playoff run has been so fun. So
yeah,
it's all right. It's not the end of the world. I'll move on. Sports are not my only source of happiness. So thankfully, considering I don't have much in it, so move on. But
yeah, we got a Jordan.
US Open would help.
What's up?
The Spieth US Open would help.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We just got a Spieth question. Greg asked if he committed to Travelers. He mentioned something in a FanDuel promotional tweet, I think. Was it FanDuel? I think it was, where he said bet on something during the Travelers, which made us all think he'll be there. But the closer we get to it, the more likely I think he won't play. Which is kind of disappointing, but it's also understandable. So we'll see. We'll talk about that more, I think, pretty soon. Yeah,
I agree. But I think we're signing off. Appreciate all your support. Not over yet. It's over. We're not beating Tampa 2 in a row. They just know how to win too much. Unlike the other two teams who played. Canes don't win. Perennial losers are the Penguins. I think the Penguins do know how to win. They just weren't a very good team. But on to next year. On to the US Open. That's where my next chance of sports happiness will come. So yeah, I think that'll do it.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for tuning in, guys.